Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about acquiring books, whether that be digitally or physically, and how to do so without breaking the bank, I hope, because in this economy, getting books is becoming more and more of a luxury. So I just wanted to talk through some different ways that I think about acquiring books if I'm going to acquire them. How do I keep my books to fitting on these two shelves for the most part? And yeah, so let's just get into it. So I've got this broken up by physical spaces, digital spaces, and then the library, which for me is a crossover. So let's start with physical. So obviously, used bookstores. That's I think the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of us. We think, am I going to go to a store and get a cheap book? How am I going to do that? For me, that is in the form of half-price books. I'm in Texas. The flagship store is 30 minutes from me, and there are multiple locations in between my home and that flagship store. They also do have a website where you now can order books from them. It's a little rough in my opinion because you're kind of ordering from the store's inventory the way I see it, because I have put plenty of things in there and then like the shipping be kind of all over, kind of like Pango, which I'll go into in a little bit, but there is that option. They also have started to roll out a buy online, pick up in store as well. Also a little iffy because it's a used bookstore, so sometimes the stock is a little volatile, but good options. If you don't have a half-price books near you, I think, what's the one that's up north? Is it Chapters? Maybe. I know there's like a thrift chain similar to half-price books that's up north and in Canada. But also just any like local mom and pop ones, like Denton, Texas isn't far from me, and there is a beautiful used bookstore there called Recycled Books and Records and CDs, Recycled Books. I love going in there whenever I'm in the area. I have found many a title there. They also have an incredible buyback program, so if by chance you're watching this and you are in DFW, the buyback rate at Recycled Books is so much better than half-price books, number one. Number two, they also do a thing where I think you get a higher credit if you do store credit versus, asking for cash back. But even when I've done cash back, like it's been really good. So, and they also, like I said, have CDs, DVDs, and records, just like half-price books. So if you're hunting for that, especially, I know a lot of us have been moving more towards physical media, given how volatile the streaming services are, and we've seen some push and pull back with like, oh, I thought I bought this, but do you really own it, kind of a thing. So I know a lot of people have been searching for physical media, and that's a space to do that. I also would say thrift stores. I don't think a lot of people think of thrift stores as a place to get books. I went into my local Goodwill the other day, just looking for little odds and ends. I needed like a vase-like structure, but not an actual vase. But I was like, you know what? I bet I could find this in here. And they had a decent amount of books in there. Obviously, this is going to vary location to location, but something to consider. And then last but not least, I don't think a lot of people think about, but have been popping up a lot, are little free libraries. They have a whole website. I'll insert a little screenshot here of where you can put your address in and see what's closest to you, or an address of an area you frequent, especially if you frequent like a walkable area. I would say it's best for that. I like to use the mentality of like, take a book, leave a book, for sure, so that, we're not depleting the little free libraries around us. So I often will take books I've either finished, or if I've gotten like unsolicited publisher mail that I have no desire to read, I will go drop those off in LFLs. And it's just a great way to do that. And if you happen to live near any bigger book influencers, some of them have their like their Instagram username as their little free library name on the website. You might find some decent titles in there. So those are some things to consider from the physical space. So let's use the library as a good intermediary between the physical and digital spaces to get books. So with the library, number one, you could obviously just physically go to the library, right? Especially, I would say, if you're a person who has almost exclusively used your library through Libby or Overdrive or any of those digital reading apps since the pandemic started, I would encourage you to go into your library. Not only does, people through the door help your library, because they do look at door counts to see how well the physical library is being utilized, it also sometimes the books are just immediately available. I've had multiple times where I am looking for an anticipated read on Libby. It's got like a 60-week hold time frame. And then I go in there and there's 3 copies just sitting on the new release shelf. Go physically into your library. If your library is anything like mine, they may have an app and or just an option on the website to go through and do your holds. So sometimes I'll do that where I will just shop through what's in stock at the library and I will mark a bunch of things for hold, and then I'll just go pick it up, and I don't have to spend a bunch of time perusing and seeing if things are in stock or if they've had a chance to be reshelved, because they're already on the hold shelf just waiting for me, and that's very, very nice. I also sometimes go in there just to like work on stuff. Like I'm probably going to go in there later to edit this video because I don't really want to stay in my apartment all day long, and it's a nice third space to go do that, and I don't have to spend any money, and I can go sit in a nice little air-conditioned building. And my library has a quiet room because it got remodeled, and it is definitely very geared towards like kids and families, which is great. I want them to have a space to go and for kids to fall in love with reading. But also, I really like silence in a library, and that's not a thing that exists in my library anymore through most of the space. Fortunately, I have noise-canceling headphones, so if I want to sit in like one of the more public spaces, I can do that. But they do have a quiet room, and I'm going to go utilize that because your girl likes the quiet. So outside of obviously physically going to the library to borrow books, I have seen, especially like, so my new library, there's actually a physical storefront space for this now. It's kind of like a storage closet. Really, calling it a storefront is very generous. But there is a room called Friends of the Library where you can go in and you can buy physical books that are come out of the rotation. So maybe there's plenty on the shelves, or maybe it's something that there just doesn't make sense for them to carry. Like I've seen like kids sticker books, like you're not going to put that on a library rotation shelf, but it'll be there in the Friends of the Library, a little store in the front. I also know that for some library systems, especially if you live in a town where you have multiple locations, like I only have one location of my library. It's a big one for our whole city, but it's the only one. Whereas when I lived in the town over, that one has like 6 or 7 different library locations. They're all really tiny. So they do not have Friends of the Library spots in their library, and instead will do like quarterly or like biannual like library sales at a designated location. So that's another thing to look into. If you don't see it, your library still probably has a Friends of the Library program. I would check their website or ask your local librarian to see what that looks like. And also ask them what it looks like to receive donations and what that looks like. So if you're on hauling, that is another place for you to give your gently used and loved books that you no longer want. And then there's obviously Libby, Overdrive, Hoopla. There are other ones. I'm thinking it's a Cloud something. There's a bunch of digital library apps, and it really just depends on your library system and what they're subscribed to as to what's available to you. But obviously that's another great way to experience books at no cost to you. And I like to try to remember that it's at no cost to me, other than, you know, obviously like paying your taxes and things like that. But as someone who's not a homeowner and does not pay property taxes, the library costs me nothing. And I try to remember that when I get frustrated that a book has a 23-week-old hold. You know? You just try to keep that in mind. And support your local libraries. I will put links down to the ALA in the description box because our libraries need our help more than ever. Not to get too like aggressively into the government, but they're attacking the libraries. And they have been for a long time. But now it is overt and it is loud and it is continuous. And there are many ways to help, so look at that. But I would say the biggest thing you could do is physically go to your library, talk to your local librarians, and see what they need, see if they need volunteers. My local library does do a volunteer system and where people can help with like different events or even just reshelving books, things like that. There are lots of ways to contribute to your community directly. Okay, so let's go into the digital ways to get books. And I don't mean that they're necessarily ebooks, but I mean like websites also that you can buy physical books from. Some of these are ebooks, things like that. So let's talk about my 3 favorite ways to buy books relatively cheaply. We have Thriftbooks, Bookoutlet, and Pango Books. These 3 are my favorite. I also really like using, oh my god, why did I just forget the name of it? That UK bookstore. They're owned by the same people as Barnes & Noble, but they're not connected. And I don't mean Waterstones, because there is Waterstones, but then there's the sister company to Waterstones, where you can buy UK copies of books, because sometimes their covers are just better than ours, and it includes the cost of shipping to the US, which is wild. Blackstones. Love them. So I guess I'll include them here too, more so for people who are into like cover collections, but also like generally speaking, the cost of the book isn't more than going to Barnes & Noble, and it's coming from the UK, which is wild. You would think there would be more there, and there was actually a little scare with like the tariffs and stuff, but they've seemed to figure it out, and I think it's because often people are not ordering $800 worth of books at one time, and if you stay under that amount, I believe you are exempt. So anyway, great option for UK covers. The reason I actually specifically split Thriftbooks and Bookoutlet as two different line items is because if you were looking for a particular version of a book, Thriftbooks is not your guy. You want to go to Bookoutlet. But if you want the cheapest possible option for your book, Thriftbooks is your game. And why do I say that? So if you will look at here, Editing Rebecca has put in a little screenshot or screen recording of shopping on Thriftbooks. As you can see, there are sometimes different covers of the book here, but there's also different quality options. So there's good, there's excellent, there's like new, there's brand new, and the cost shows up according to that. So if you're just looking for the cheapest copy of the book possible, and you don't care if it looks like it's been well loved for 20 years, you sometimes can find books for like $2.99 on there, and it's excellent. But if you are looking for a particular cover or particular like quality, like if you really want a brand new book but you don't want to go pay $18.99 at Barnes & Noble for it, I think Bookoutlet is the space for that. Their stock is a little volatile, so is Thriftbooks, but Bookoutlet in particular is because they source brand new books in a couple of different ways. Most of it is overstock from places like Barnes & Noble, Target, whatever. Some of it is, I think, books that have come out of rotations at libraries but are still in good condition. And they often will come with like a little like black mark on them. In fact, I have an example. Okay, so I got All Roads Lead Here from Bookoutlet. Brand new. Got it for $5.99. And it just has this little black mark on the page, on the bottom. I do not care. Otherwise, this book is in perfect condition and would have cost me $18.99 if I went to Barnes & Noble to get it. So that's something to consider. Bookoutlet also will often do like these quarterly $5.99 sales where a bunch of fiction and nonfiction books are on sale. They have an incredible romance selection. If romance is your thing, if you're watching this channel, it probably is because that's what I talk about the most. But they have all sorts of books on there. And then if you want a more niche look into things and you enjoy buying from the shelves of your friends or people you've met on the internet, Pango Books is excellent. I have a discount code in my description box down below. This is not sponsored by them by any means, but if it's your first order, I think you get $5 off of your first order if you use my code. So that'll be down here in the description box and the code on the screen. But pricing here varies because you, the individual, if you're running a Pango store, set your own pricing, whether or not you charge for shipping, things like that. So it's all varies, but I find this really great if you're looking for a particular kind of book. So for example, if you wanted, say, Or Memory by Abby Jimenez, but you wanted the Probably Smut edition that came out this month, but you're not a subscriber to Probably Smut, you can probably find a copy of it on there for somebody who did not want their book from the subscription. Now, that is a really popular title, and I imagine that the markup on that is going to be kind of high. So I do not expect to get it for the $25 that Probably Smut charges for their monthly subscription box. Also, I've seen things like the, is it 813 Stories? That cute little imprint that has those like mostly red and white covered books. I'll put screenshots of those in there. I've seen some of those on there. So if you have had issues finding them like in your local bookstore brand new, also a good spot to go to look at those there. Yeah, Pango is it's a marketplace, but if you have, especially if you like special editions, I don't want to say that these are necessarily cheaper because sometimes they're mostly not. But if you're looking for something very specific, it's probably on there. And I just say that because people are selling based directly off their shelves. The other thing that's kind of nice is a lot of people will run sales on there. Sometimes just randomly, but oftentimes corresponding to holidays, where they'll be like, okay, if you spend $20, you get free shipping, which the shipping is normally like anywhere from like $5 to $8.99. So if you're buying multiple books, that's incredible. That's the other thing too, is sometimes you'll go on someone's shop and they only have like one title you want, but then other times you go and look and you'll find somebody and they've got like 5 titles you want, and they're running a promo on free shipping, or $15 off a $50 purchase or something like that. So just something else to look into. There are so many ways to get those. And then the last two things that I wanted to recommend are not about getting the books themselves. Well, one of them is, but more about just maximizing discounting as a reader. So the first one is eReader IQ. I love using this site to track the price drops of ebooks I am interested in. I also really like using, I think it's ebook daily deals is the Instagram account. But sometimes I will miss the posts, and I don't like having post notifications on. Daily ebook deals. I'll put her name's Erica. She also runs like a book club, so sometimes there are posts about that, but she puts her deals up there. I like using a combination of those two things because Erica mostly focuses on Kindle ebooks, and so sometimes they're discounted there, but they're not discounted in the Kobo store. But most of the time, eReader IQ gets the job done, especially if I'm like quarterly looking through. I often will look through my TBR and go like, what do I want to read over the next couple of months? And so I will go through, and the way it works is you go to the ebook store of your choice. So as you can see, editing Rebecca here has put in me going to the Kobo store, looking up a title I'm interested in, and then copying and pasting that into eReader IQ. So you just heard me talking about eReader IQ, and I have the very unfortunate news to tell you that that is a Kindle only option. If you put in a link for any other store, it does not work. So in theory, you could still use it even if you use other services, because a lot of time the sale is driven by the publisher, not by Amazon, but sometimes it is. So food for thought. And you can insert it there, and then you can put your threshold and say, I want to know if this drops below, say, $5.99. Or I want to know if this drops $5 off the cost, especially if it's a book you know is like rarely on sale. Sometimes doing something like that is nice. And then you get a little email alert, and it tells you, hey, this book is on sale right now. And then you can, buy it or not, depending on what you want. And then the other thing I was going to recommend is Fetch. Again, not sponsored by them. I have just been using Fetch for years. It initially started out as a grocery shopping like rewards thing where you would upload your receipts and it would give you points based on like the products you were purchasing. And a lot of times if you would scroll through there, you'd see like, oh, they're doing, 500 points if you buy Charmin toilet paper versus, I don't know, whatever other brand of toilet paper. And so I would kind of like build my shopping list based off of things like that so that I could like maximize how much points I was going when I was buying stuff I already needed anyway, right? Like I'm already going to Kroger to get groceries and just apartment supplies. So if it's already on there and they're going to give me points for it, like obviously I'm going to take advantage. But now there are games. And this is where they got me, okay? Because I don't do a huge amount of shopping. I'm a single person. So when I do go shopping, it's not for a ton of stuff. And so sometimes the grocery rewards are a little out of my range because it'll be like, yeah, if you buy Jif peanut butter 4 times in the next 90 days, and I'm like, I don't go through peanut butter that fast. I don't live in a household of 6. But if you do, more power to you. So like things like that wouldn't really hit for me. And so I would only get like partial oil points or like I wouldn't qualify at all. But they started doing games. And as someone who loves listening to audiobooks, sometimes it's nice to play a game on my phone while I do that. And so I have started playing a lot of like puzzle games and getting points for just hitting levels. Like not doing in-app purchases or anything like that, but literally just completing the levels of the game as I'm listening to my little audiobook. And it has been a fantastic way to pass the time. I also get a referral bonus if you sign up. It is entirely free. They have like an option in there to use it for shopping online too, so that we get like points for stuff like that. I'm not saying to buy things you don't need. I'm saying use it for the things you already are buying and just get rewarded for it, if you will. And if this is you and you play a lot of games on your phone, this also may be a good time for you as well. So I will leave my link for that below, and I think I get 4,000 points when you sign up, and you get 2 or 3,000. I don't know. I just remember seeing the number and being like, wow, that's a lot. And the reason that's a lot, and the reason I use this, actually, let's get back to why this connects to books, because I forgot. You can redeem your points for gift cards. You could do like a Visa gift card, but like the point ratio is a lot higher. I like to do store gift cards, and in particular, I do Barnes & Noble gift cards. I think every 10,000 points is $10. And for a lot of these games, like it'll be like hit level 10, that's 2,000 points. Hit level 20, that's 4,000 points. If I'm sitting there listening to a 12-hour audiobook and I play games for like 4 of those hours, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it's just such a low effort way to get book money. That's the way I'm looking at it. It's like, ooh, I want, the new whoever. Let's say Emily Henry has a book coming out later this month, and I know it's going to be hardback. I like to also use my Barnes & Noble gift cards for books that are going to be pricier or that I would normally wait for. But let's say I didn't want to wait and I wanted the new Emily Henry immediately. Well, a hardback right now is $27.99, right? And yeah, I have a Barnes & Noble membership and it would be a little less than that, but it's still going to be damn near $30. Well, if I already have a $10 Barnes & Noble gift card sitting around for me effortlessly playing games, why not use it? I think their exports are at $10 and $20, but you can do multiples. Some other ones will have $50, $100 gift cards on there, so scroll through, see what works for you. You don't have to use it for books necessarily. You can use it for whatever you want. That's just the hobby I choose to apply those gift cards to. So, hope this helps. Would love to know any other ways that you find to be thrifty in your book habits. And I will see you all in another video soon.